The Northeast states, commonly referred to as New England, have some really cute small towns and vibrant big cities that attract people. But no matter which state you go to in the US, you will find cities and towns that the state's residents absolutely hate. Most of the time, it's for good reason. These are usually communities with a lot of problems, so I thought I would do a series on which cities are voted the worst by the people who actually live in each state. In this video, we're taking a look at the 10 states that comprise the Northeast: Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, New York, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Delaware, Connecticut, and New Jersey. Vermont, in some people's minds, is where rich New Yorkers go to stay in their second homes and ski. And that is true for some parts of the state. But Rutland is not one of those places. This is a city that has earned the title of worst city. It ranks the lowest in a lot of different categories for Vermont. For starters, Vermont is the second safest state in the US for 2022, according to World Population Review, so every community in the state should be safe, right? But Rutland's overall crime rate, while still being better than a lot of the country, is 4% above the national average and 76% above the Vermont average. They have a population of just 15,807, but they had 322 property crimes and 44 violent crimes, giving residents a 1 in 41 chance of becoming a victim of a crime. Part of that is due to the drug problem. Idyllic little Vermont has become a hotbed of drug activity over the last decade. In 2014, Politico dubbed the state America's heroin capital, and just last year they had a bust that seized approximately $300,000 worth of illicit drugs. And sadly, Rutland is a large part of the problem. It was given the nickname Heroin City in 2013. However, the city has been taking steps to combat the issue by creating a prevention program called Project Vision and expanding rehab options for those affected. Then there's the education discrepancy. Vermont is one of the most educated states in the nation. 38% of Vermonters have earned a bachelor's degree, but only 28.4% of Rutland residents have one, which might explain why the city has a higher than average poverty rate. In the US, 12.6% of the citizens fall below the poverty line, but in Vermont it's only 9.4%. Except for in Rutland, where it's 12.6%. This is due to the median household income being considerably lower than the state and national averages, at only $48,212. Some of that might be due to an unusually high number of people working in food service. They have 1.67 times the usual number of people in that job category for a population of this size. But you know what? While Rutland might be the worst city in Vermont, according to the people who live there, it's still nicer than a lot of other communities in the US. It's better than my hometown, so I'm rooting for you, Rutland. The main reason that New Hampshireites have declared Manchester the worst city in the state is the crime. Manchester's rate is 129% higher than the New Hampshire average and 53% higher than the national average. The most recent crime report listed 670 violent crimes, including 5 murders and 2,560 property crimes. That's with a population of 115,644. Manchester has the third highest homicide rate for the state, with 1.88 per 100,000 people, and it's ranked number 1 in violent crimes at 273 per 100,000 people. Manchester is safer than only 15% of other cities in the US, and there is a 1 in 35 chance of becoming a victim. Many residents mentioned that the city has a drug problem, as well as an abundance of prostitutes on the city streets. That might partially be why Manchester is ranked number 1 in HIV diagnoses for the state, with 127 per 100,000 people, and number 2 in STIs at 333 per 100,000 people. As far as legal occupations, the 3 largest industries in Manchester are healthcare, retail, and manufacturing. The median household income of $60,711 is just slightly below the national median of $62,843, but it's considerably lower than New Hampshire's median of $76,768. That's why 14.1% of the city's residents fall below the poverty line, compared to the state's rate of 7%. Part of why so many people are working in low-wage jobs is that they don't have the education or skills to move up the socioeconomic ladder. New England in general is known for higher education, with Ivy League schools and other institutions being in the region. New Hampshire is home to Dartmouth University, but in Manchester, 12.7% of the adult residents have dropped out of high school. The residents blame a poor school system for that. It seems that students who don't feel like they're learning anything don't stick around to get a diploma. Calling Rumford, Maine a city is being a bit generous, since they only have 5,858 people living there, but apparently the rest of Maine thinks this place gives them a bad reputation. Maine is the safest state in the US, and you can see that reflected in the data for Rumford. Their overall crime rate is 16% below the national average, and their violent crime rate is 55% below the national average. However, the overall rate is 56% higher than the Maine average, but that's only 10 violent crimes and 103 property crimes. The FBI says Rumford is safer than 50% of US cities, and the chance of becoming a victim is 1 in 51, and the crime rate is actually going down. It decreased by 34% from the previous year. So why the hate for this small town? The residents say there's nothing there, except for McDonald's and a Dunkin' Donuts. They mention that the only jobs are at the hospital, paper mill, and ski resort. However, the most recent census data has the three largest industries as being healthcare, educational services, and construction. The jobs they do have don't seem to pay very well because the median household income is about $20,000 less than the national median, at only $41,609, and 13.8% of the residents live below the poverty line. On the plus side, though, homes are cheap in this area. The average price is $92,000. They currently have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home listed on Zillow for $80,000. The city of Woonsocket really tries to sell itself to potential new residents. They say that it's a vibrant urban community that offers the right blend of exciting city life and cozy small-town comfort. However, some residents disagree with that assessment. The locals say that the crime is out of control. One person used the phrase trashy and neglected to describe the area. Violent crimes are 29% above the national average. With a population of 43,240, they reported 24 robberies, 136 assaults, 4 murders, and an astounding 45 rapes. Way to go, Woonsocket! So basically, if you're going to spend any time in the city, make sure to wear a chastity belt and hide the key. They also had 756 property crimes, but those at least make a little bit of sense when you notice that 21.8% of the residents live below the poverty line. The median household income for this community is only $42,595, which is $20,000 below the national median. That's due to a lack of decent paying jobs. The second largest industry, after healthcare, is retail. Most people aren't raking in the big bucks in a retail job, and New England is an expensive place to live. If all of that wasn't bad enough, there's apparently an odor that covers the entire city, with one resident saying, "The downtown area has a sewage facility that burns its garbage at night, and it literally smells like hot diapers and dead fish every night after 5 p.m. throughout the town." Well, doesn't that just sound pleasant? Connecticut is where the rich people live. For example, Meryl Streep lives in Connecticut. The state has one of the highest median household income levels for the country at $78,444, but the city of Bridgeport apparently didn't get the memo. In this city, the median household income is only $46,662, and the poverty rate is 21.8%. Following the trend set by the previous entry, Bridgeport's second largest industry is also retail, with the first being healthcare. Once upon a time, Bridgeport was a factory town. All sorts of products, from corsets to ammunition to typewriters, were manufactured in the city. After a series of labor strikes, this place was one of the first to implement an 8-hour workday. But then World War II happened, and after it ended, the factories started closing down and people moved to the suburbs. Today, some of the largest employers are Bridgeport Hospital, St. Vincent's Medical Center, and Bridgeport Healthcare Center. Similar to the other cities on this list, one of the reasons the residents of the state hate this place so much is the crime. Violent crimes are 48% above the national average and 33% above the state average. They have 148,654 residents, and they reported 24 murders and 805 other violent crimes, in addition to 2,514 property crimes. That puts the chance of becoming a victim at 1 in 44. Residents, when asked about the city, cite the violent crime rate time and time again. They all say the same thing: it's just not a safe place to be. Oh, New Jersey. You have so many cities to choose from when it comes to being the worst place in your state. Newark comes to mind, but y'all picked Camden. After looking into it, I have to concur. Camden might just be the worst city in all of New England, which might be why people are fleeing from there. Between 2010 and 2020, their population dropped from 77,344 to 71,791. There was actually a time, though, when this city was attracting newcomers. Both immigrants and people from other parts of the U.S. were moving into the area for jobs at the various different factories in Camden. At its peak in 1950, they had a population of 124,000. But like with a lot of industrial towns, they experienced an economic downturn when some of those manufacturing jobs were eliminated. Then add in a mass killing spree by a guy named Howard Unruh in 1949, and a few race riots in the late 60s, early 70s, and the white people who could afford to started leaving Camden. Today, only 5.8% of the city's population is made up of white residents. All of those things have had an impact on the community. For one thing, Camden suffers from a high poverty rate. It's 36.4%. That's because the median household income is only $27,015. To put that into perspective, New Jersey's median household income is $82,545. When a city's income is a third of the state's, a high crime rate isn't that surprising, but Camden is an overachiever in that area. Their violent crime rate is 313% above the national average and 178% above the state's average. The last FBI report had 1,172 violent crimes and 1,579 property crimes listed. Camden is safer than only 6% of U.S. cities, and the chance of becoming a victim is 1 in 27. One of the most common reasons listed by residents for the crime is a huge drug problem.
Delaware. Hi, I'm in Delaware.
Terrible city, high crime, dirty and dense. That's how one Wilmington, Delaware resident described the city. Way to sell it, but they have a point, which is a shame. This city has so many historical sites, like the Woodward houses, which are two homes built in the mid-1700s. It could be a cool place to live, but instead, it's full of violence and poverty. Remember everything I said about the crime in Camden, New Jersey, and how it might be the worst New England city? Forget that. Amazingly, Wilmington, Delaware somehow has them beat. The violent crime rate for Wilmington is 310% above the national average and 121% above Delaware's average. The city is safer than only 2% of U.S. cities. East St. Louis and Gary, Indiana are safer than this place, and that's after Wilmington's crime decreased by 11%. The chance of becoming a victim in Wilmington is 1 in 19. The most recent FBI report listed 2,598 property crimes and 1,115 violent crimes, which included 31 murders. That's for a city that only has a population of 70,898. Then there is the lack of decent jobs. Similar to some of the other cities on this list, retail is the second largest industry, accounting for 11.7% of the jobs, so there are a lot of families struggling to get by. The median household income is only $45,032, and 26% of the residents fall below the poverty line. With data like this, you would think that people would be moving away from there, but Wilmington's population actually went up by 40 residents from 2010 to 2020. It boggles the mind. Massachusetts is consistently ranked as one of the most educated states in the U.S., thanks in large part to the numerous colleges and universities within the state, including Harvard, Boston College, and MIT. 8 such institutions are located in Worcester, so it's estimated that there are 35,000 college students within the city. Yet, somehow, only 84.7% of the adults in the city have earned a high school diploma. One resident said, "The school system is a joke. 99% of the teachers are only in the classroom for a paycheck." Well, people typically do go to work for a paycheck, but I get your point. The Worcester City Government's website calls this place the country's most vibrant and livable mid-sized city. So I have to ask, livable for whom? Many residents cite an ongoing drug and crime problem within the city. This is a larger city with a population of 206,518, so one would expect there to be more crime, but maybe not this much. Worcester is safer than only 14% of U.S. cities. There is a 1 in 39 chance of becoming a victim thanks to a violent crime rate that is 63% above the national average. They reported 10 homicides, 1,159 various other violent crimes, and 3,695 property crimes. And then there's the poverty rate of 20%. That's 41,303 residents who fall below the poverty line. The median household income is only $48,139. It's really hard to make it in one of the most expensive states on that kind of money. In a lot of ways, Albany is similar to the rest of these cities. There's the poverty and low wages, with the median household income being only $45,824 and 22.9% of the residents living below the poverty line. There's also the crime. The violent crime rate is 133% above the national average and 106% higher than the state average. They reported 16 homicides, 853 other violent crimes, and 2,650 property crimes. That's out of a population of 99,224. Albany is safer than only 6% of U.S. cities. There's also a 1 in 28 chance of becoming a victim. Now, one of the ways in which Albany is different from the other places is that this is a capital city, so they have a large number of people working for the government. Public administration is the second largest industry in Albany, accounting for 12.3% of the jobs. The number 1 largest industry is healthcare, and rounding out the top 3 is educational services, due to the presence of the State University of New York at Albany campus. One of the course offerings at the university is atmospheric and environmental sciences. Within that category, one of the areas of study is climate and environmental systems, which looks at things like the effects of climate change and how to combat it. As a result, according to the residents of Albany, their city is being affected by geoengineering. They say planes fly overhead and release chemicals, which creates a cloud over the area. From what I can tell, the theory is that if you block the sun's rays, it cools down the planet, or something like that. I'm not an expert, but I do know that there was a petition to end the practice, and residents say they're getting sick from it. One common refrain heard over and over again from Scranton's residents is that the city is corrupt. It is true that at least 2 of their mayors have served time for corruption. The first one was in the 1930s, but the second one was more recent. William Courtwright was sentenced to 7 years in 2020 for what some media outlets called a pay-to-play scheme. He was charged with criminal conspiracy, bribery, and extortion. According to the people living in the area, he wasn't the only corrupt official, and that seems to be true because there are law offices in Scranton specializing in government corruption defense cases. The city also has a lot of the regular run-of-the-mill variety of crime too. The most recent report lists 1,199 violent crimes and 1,347 property crimes, so the violent crime rate is 300% above the national average and 62% above the Pennsylvania average. That makes Scranton safer than only 7% of US cities, and there is a 1 in 31 chance of becoming a victim of a crime. As with a lot of the places previously mentioned, the 3 largest industries in this area are healthcare, retail, and educational services. Despite having 5 colleges and universities located in Scranton, the residents have a low educational attainment rate. In the state of Pennsylvania, 90.5% of the adults over the age of 25 have a high school diploma, and 31.4% have a bachelor's degree. In Scranton, only 85.9% have a diploma and 22.2% have a degree. That might explain why the median household income is $21,000 below the state median at $40,608, and why 23.2% of the residents live below the poverty line. If you live in one of these states, let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with the worst city picked for your area. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and maybe share it on social media to help out the channel. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I remain stuck in the cornfield.